Today I would like to show you the brand new version of Notability, which has been updated this summer in 2023 and looks a little bit different than before. So this is the screen you arrive at when you open the app. On the left, you have all your notebooks that you have created, each with dividers inside to organize your work properly. And on the right, you have, when you are in this position here at the top left, notes. And on the right, you can see that the notes, you can have a quick view of all your notes or the recent one that you have opened recently, the favorite that you might have marked as such, unfiled that needs to be put somewhere into a notebook, and the shared notes. So the first thing you need to understand is what's hiding behind those two icons. So if I click on this little round, I can view the list of my notes on the main screen in two different ways, as a grid or as a list. I personally like my list. Then, of course, I can select some notes to delete them or move them from one notebook to the other, or I can change the way they are being sorted by name, modified date, or created date. The blue icon has two functions. If you press a short press, you will create a new note, such as this. You are now in a new note and you can change the backgrounds here, import some documents, scan, or use some templates. You will eventually give it a name. Or if you maintain your finger a bit longer on the blue icon called New, this is what happens. You can import a document from the local drive of the iPad, the local memory from the Files application. Maybe you received a file from a USB drive, a flash drive, or maybe you saved a file here in the download section from the web, or maybe you saved the file here from an email, maybe. And you can, of course, access online places. You can open a template, or you can scan a document straight away by long pressing this blue button. So if we look here into our notebook, there's not much change from previous presentation. You still have under a notebook dividers. You can allow a different level of dividers, 1, 2. We don't recommend more than 2 because the kids tend to get lost. The lines can be in color, the dots can be in color. All of this can be set up in the parameters up there at the top in the way you want to view your notebook. And then in each of these dividers, you have different notes or different books, and you have different documents that you've created, lessons, or the tests that you've passed, and some exercises, for example, in reading comp. So if I choose to look at some documents in a divider, I might, for example, want to open a document and see a test here that was done by a child who responded to some questions here where it was necessary, and below wrote a text as was asked by typing it. But in that same divider, once again, I could create a new note, which I would of course rename here. New note 1, enter, and blah blah. Okay, then I close it, so I might be in a lesson of something, and here it is. Or by long pressing the blue one, I could import a test, say for example an evaluation from a teacher that would come from a USB key, or that I would have received by mail maybe, and that I would have saved in my files, in my local memory of the iPad. Or I could go and get something on a shared area. So as a student, I have many options of where I get my PDF documents or PowerPoint documents if the teachers have supporting documents in that format. And I can include all those documents wherever I want, straight in the right divider or somewhere else. So if I go back into this test that I showed you earlier on, so we can see here that we can zoom in and out with our fingers, and we can see here all the usual tools of Notability. So we can draw and then undo. We can draw with different colors and with different thickness. We can, this is brand new, this is a pencil actually, again with different shades of gray and different thickness. This is to highlight, so there's no difference here in terms of before. The eraser with a whole or partially erasing something. The text function where you can not only create a text box but also select a text so that it's being read out loud. The lasso, which is like a pair of scissors to come and cut certain parts of the document and paste it somewhere else. The photos, which is the tool you will use to take a picture of the board, for example, or scan a piece of paper. The microphone to record yourself. The hand lets you move into the document without drawing and or anything else. And then the tape, which is really nice. You can sort of tape, I'll try to do it here, some parts of the document, and then when you touch it with your finger it appears, or you touch it again and the tape disappears. So it's very good for revision purposes. And then the ruler that you can have appearing on the screen. So the tools are pretty much all the same as usual. The only new one is the tape, really, really interesting for revision purposes. Now, if you go back to those three dots, you see a few options and bits to do. You can quickly share your test once it's completed to send it either via AirDrop or to save it on a USB key or to send it via email. This option really only lets you send it as a PDF. This one will let you put it in also some shared areas, and you can also share it as in another format than the PDF document. And then of course in the information submenu, this is where you can see you're not in A4 but in letter optimized, so the US format of the paper, which is not good for math, for example. You really want to be in A4. And also here is where sometimes even though you are in the pencil or drawing option, with your finger you can't draw. That's because there's a stylus that's connected, so you need to come here to disconnect. And of course here is where you see you have little pages, a different view of the document, so you can move into your document and see how many pages there are. And these are little, I think they're called bookmarks, that's it. So you could bookmark a page, say it's becoming very interesting, this in a school book. You might have this week worked on page 53 and 54 of your school book, so you might want to bookmark them so that when it's time for revision, you only have access to the 2 pages that you have bookmarked here in your document, and you can have access to them really quickly. So let's start working in this document. Obviously, the child here will need to read that text. So if they are dyslexic, you know, or if they have any reading difficulties, you know, you can use the text function to point your finger, stay on it, and have the text read out loud.
Well, you would pick the hardest one in the book, she says.
You can change those voices and so on. You can create a text box and position it whichever way you want. So in order to create a text box, you would be in your text position and with your finger create a rectangle in which you would write some text. Obviously here it's centered. You have different choices down there. You have not only choices in terms of the alignment, but in terms of the space between the lines, which is really useful for dyslexic children. And of course, as soon as you create a text box, you can change all sorts of things. You can create bullet points, you can bold it, and so on. And you can change, if you select it with your keyboard, exactly like on the laptop, you can change la police de caractère, the font, and also the way it looks like. Yeah, you have now a little bit more options in the new version with Notability in terms of how you can change the font and the titles and so on. So that's for the text box. If you're a teacher and you are using Notability, it's also worth, when you are into this text function, to go into those three little dots. It will show you, you can switch on or off how to create a quick text box, but you can also scribble, which is when you're going to be handwriting with your stylus on the page, and your handwritten text will be automatically converted into a typed text. So now I need to complete my test. So what I want to show you is that, of course, we can type a text box, or we can also dictate in a text box. So for example, here, this answer here has been typed in this instance, but if I create a text box and I want to dictate my answer, I can do so by using the little microphone that is here. Please don't choose this one in the tools of Notability, otherwise you will record your voice in the notes and it's not going to type what you're saying. It's just going to record your audio recording. So you really want this little microphone that's at the bottom of your iPad screen, and you're going to do a long press and choose the language in which you are going to dictate. In my case, English. And then when you lift your finger, the iPad is ready to listen to you. Okay, so with my finger I will make the font much smaller so that it fits next to the other one. So obviously here I've made a mistake. It's not wielding, but it's welding. But let's listen to it by selecting the text with my finger and choosing the option speak.
Because the sparks caused when wielding could blind her.
So of course, if I'm English and I hear that there is a mistake, I might be able to correct that mistake. So now if I look at the other functions of Notability, I can start underlining or creating certain shapes. Remember that the shapes are assisted, so if I want to draw a rectangle and I leave my finger on it for a while, the rectangle appears very rectangle, even though it wasn't very straight to start with. And of course I can copy this rectangle or duplicate it. I can change its color, or I can fill it with a color in the style area, or of course I can delete it. But let's duplicate it and move this one somewhere else and make it bigger. I can also underline. You know that if my line is not straight, I can either undo it, or also same as before, if I leave my finger on it, the line becomes straight, and I can once again by clicking on it in the lasso, I can change the color of it, duplicate it, cut, save, delete, and so on. I just wanted to show you a round shape. So if I go into my pen again And if I do a round shape, it stays as a round, so I can make it bigger or smaller. And if I do an oval shape, it should be doing the same, and I can make it bigger or smaller. Again, I can fill it in with a color, so the text behind disappears, duplicate it, cut it, and delete it. And of course, I can highlight in different color. If my line is not straight, but I maintain it, then it becomes straight. I can change the colors. With the eraser, remember, we can partially erase some bits of the line here, or we can erase the whole thing. So for example, if I come and touch this square, it disappears entirely. The same applies for the highlight. Just a reminder on the text-to-speech. Remember that when you in the text position, when the child needs for the iPad to read out loud, you can maintain your finger on the first word that you want to select. Note that you have access to this text if the PDF is an accessible PDF that you've been given. And you can define it as well in the dictionary. But when you select and expand the selection, you can then have it spoken, if you want, out loud. Remember that whatever PDF document you're being given, you don't need to tell the iPad in which language to read out loud. The iPad will recognize the language automatically. In this case, it will be English. But if I take a PDF written in French, the iPad will read automatically in French.
You have a choice of 2 creative writing tasks. Choose one.
So here the child has chosen the option 2, the haunted closet. There are 2 ways of going about this task. So you can type like on the laptop and create your story, or you can dictate, for example, for a dyslexic person. So if I'm coming at the end of the document here, I can type blah blah blah, or I don't want it underline, so up, voilà, j'ai changé, I changed it, or I can dictate once again. Remember that it is this microphone and not this one, and that you need to choose the language first, and then when you're finished to dictate, then you need to press the microphone again to stop the iPad listening. So let's do it. Choose English. Okay, so you can add a full stop if necessary, and once again by double clicking with your finger on one word or long pressing this word, extending the selection zone and choosing speak, the iPad will proofread for you.
This is a demo for Notability in English.
So the next tool is the photo insertion. So you can either take a picture of the board, for example, of the blackboard, or scan a document. Let's assume we want to take a picture in our document. I'll put it here at the bottom. Cancel. So this photo is now in my document, and I can, when in the lasso position, I can make it bigger, or I can crop it, copy and paste it, delete it, duplicate it. Very important if you have made pictures of some documents that you want to insert in your note, or if you want to take a picture of the board, as I said. Another tool that is very useful and that replaces pairs of scissors and glue sticks, especially in primary school, but also useful in secondary, is your lasso. So when you navigate into a document, there might be some areas that you want to copy and paste somewhere else so that you can refer back to them. So say, for example, this technical accuracy text, I want to copy that bit. So with my lasso, I go around it, then I copy it. And at the very bottom, because I want to make sure that I create my writing with this clue, I touch the screen once with my finger and I paste my image. So I have now brought back the instructions, if you want, from the first page to the bottom page. For example, this taking a picture of the board becomes really interesting in mathematics, for example, where taking notes is harder in math. So if I go into this note, for example, what we see here is a PDF that was given to the student and who's completed some of the math with the stylus, but most importantly, who took a picture of the board because they couldn't note all the corrections as quickly as everybody else and accurately as everybody else with the pencil or the stylus. This brings me to the next tool, which is of importance in Notability. We're going to be talking about stickers, and they hide behind the photos in the second little icon here. We have the recent stickers that we've used here on the left, and then my stickers here, and then of course my favorite stickers there. Now the reason we are talking about stickers is because they become very important for sciences, specifically chemistry and physics and all. So for example, you can see here on my document that I've used some stickers coming from the STEM collection of Notability. So if I go into the recently used and I go down, this one here is one that's in the STEM collection. You can see that for those stickers that you can bring, you can put them sideways and you can color them maybe with this to say, you know, there's water in it, for example. Now, if you wanted to add some stickers which do not exist in the current categories of Notability, you can very much do so. And the way you do it is by getting a picture from the web or from a notebook somewhere and converting it from an image to ink. So here is my little tube that I've filled in with water. What I'm missing is the next symbol in science to show how I've filled it in. So I can go and pick it up into a book, a school book, for example. And here it is. This is called a pipette in French, and I forget in English. I will select this pipette with my lasso, and I will copy it. I move into a white area into the school book and I will paste it, for example, here. Here I go. I will now convert it into ink. This is now an image of the pipette, an image as a drawing. And this has become important because this is the drawing that you can save as a sticker. I could erase some part of it, but I'm not going to. What I will do is I will select it with my lasso and save it. Here it says enregistrer. For us it will say save. Yeah, in English, here, save. Okay, when I saved it, this has been saved now as a drawing into my stickers. So if I come back into my document with my little tube, I go back into my stickers on the right, here, second icon, and here is my sticker and my pipette. So I can double click it or slide it into my document and it will appear as an image and complete my drawing. I can then, of course, resize it, I can rotate it or fill it in with a different color. A subject often discussed in Notability and on the iPad is how to deal with geography and coloring a geography map. There are two ways of doing it. The first one is using the lasso and the second one is using the highlighter. So let's assume I want to color Belgium in blue. I will go on the function pen as a blue pen. And I will go around the country limits and draw my shape. I will keep my stylus down, so it creates a polygon, an assisted shape polygon. And if I put myself in the lasso tool, and if I touch this polygon with my stylus or with my finger, I see different options. The one that is of interest in geography is style. As you can see, you can change the fill color. At the moment it's nothing, but I've just picked blue here. Or the line color. Both I've chosen blue for Belgium. The second method is to use the highlighter with a very high thickness if necessary. So let's assume we want to color France in green. I choose my highlighter in a very thick line, and I go around inside, and then I fill it in quickly. It's not perfect, but the teachers have to appreciate that the kids are most of the time dyspraxic or dysgraphic. I can then, with my eraser, which please do not take the whole eraser, otherwise you get rid of the whole of the green, but the partial erasure, to come and correct what might need to be corrected here on the outside with a very small point of the eraser. You choose a smaller size. And then, of course, here there's a bit of green missing, so I come back on my green, put a little bit of green again, and that's done. Here it goes for geography maps.